Hi! Hello, world! It's still hot. We're here this morning with a little matcha latte. I thought we'd have a little get to know me story time. Wow, I started that with my transatlantic accent that I like to throw on. Katharine Hepburn, who is she? I wanted to document my history with knitting. I've seen a handful of other videos like this, and I thought it was interesting because we all have our own path to greatness. I'm just kidding, but I think it's interesting to see how people got to the point that we're all at now. So let's pull it back to when I was 7 years old on Easter. We did Easter baskets when I was younger, and when I woke up, I had an Easter basket in my room. The Easter bunny had visited me. Now there's the normal things in there like chocolate eggs and a bunny and like little toys and stuff. But there was also knitting needles and a ball of yarn. So my dear sweet mommy casted on 10 stitches, taught me how to do the knit stitch, and just handed it off to me and went, make yourself a scarf. And I went, this is fun. I then worked my way through the entire ball of yarn, and when I got near to the end, I went back to my mom and she taught me how to cast off. And there you go, I had a whole scarf that I made myself. And I thought that was very cool. And now to preface all of this, I was always a very kind of artsy, DIY, crafty kid. I always liked an activity. I still like an activity. So my mom was constantly trying to find things that would entertain me and keep me mentally stimulated and physically occupied. Like, she taught me how to sew because that's what she did when she was younger. She learned how to knit, but she really only learned the basics. But I made my own scarf. But here's the thing. I never wore the scarf. The scarf wasn't for me. I gave it to my dad, and my dad still has it, and he still wears it every winter. This scarf is 20 years old, and he still wears it every single year, and it warms my heart to see that he still appreciates it. Now, I still have my very first pair of knitting needles. They're extremely bit up because I went through a phase of like chewing on the tip of them while I was thinking, so they're gross, but they're sentimental to me. So that was me, 7 years old, knit a scarf. I was hooked. I continued to knit in elementary school on and off, in middle school on and off. Got a little bit more into it in high school, but it still was nowhere near the monster I've created today. Even through high school and college, I was still into DIY and crafting kind of stuff. I mean, I went to school for film, so this is a lifelong thing I'm doing. But it really wasn't until I graduated college that I really picked up the hobby again. You know, there was a little bit more free time, a little bit more of a structured schedule to my week. I didn't have the stress of projects or homework or as busy of a social life as you do when you're in college. So I filled my time with knitting. I'm one who constantly likes to improve their skill set in whatever really makes me passionate, makes me happy, makes me excited with a joie de vivre. Knitting does that to me. So I dug in. I found out what Ravelry was and scoured through a bunch of patterns for the size needles that I had or anything that looked interesting or whatever I thought I wanted to learn to make. And then I would read through the pattern. If there was a skill I didn't know, I would go to the lovely YouTube and watch tutorials on how to do these things. I had never heard of a tubular cast on before I did one project. How am I going to know what to do? Do I just do a different cast on or do I do a little bit of research? So I got a little bit more ambitious with my knitting, and I'm thrilled with it because I still have a lot to learn, but I've absolutely seen an improvement in my skill set. You can definitely make a lot of things with just knitting squares and rectangles with just purl and knit stitches. It's so much more fun when you can do all these extravagant things. Like when I learned to cable knit, I was flabbergasted how kind of simple it was. I thought it was gonna be far more difficult than it actually was. But it was kind of, the base skill is just easy, and you just have to take the time to learn the movements. It's like learning a sport. You have to build a base. You have to constantly work and learn to get better and improve. You have to go over and repeat movements and actions until you master them, and then you don't have to think about them. That was a great analogy. I'm so smart. I went from knitting very small things that I could finish within a week to then working on projects that take me months to do. I don't regret a single moment. That's my story of knitting. My mom introduced it to me when I was 7 years old, and 20 years later, I'm still at it. It was a casual hobby for a long time, and then I got really into it, and then the pandemic happened. Really dug in. I was like, this is the time. If there's any time. At the moment I was living by myself, and I was just like, I need to have something to fill my time when I'm done with work. That's when I was like, I'm going to knit a top to bottom sweater. I'm gonna completely do that, and I did, and I'm still learning, and I don't think I'm gonna lose the passion for this. I can't wait to teach my own kid or like a niece or nephew. Like, that would be really sweet for me. Like, I don't like making video tutorials. Found that out. If you watch like my first 2 videos, I sound bored the whole time and I hated it. But we try things, we figure it out. But I would love to sit down with like a 7-year-old who's family and teach them this craft. That would make me very happy. Well, so now that the sun disappeared behind a cloud, I guess we're done. Thanks for being here. Have a really nice day. Make yourself a nice cup of matcha. A nice matcha latte. Oh, now the sun comes out. This is still the wrap up. Okay, bye, I love you. Bye, bye, bye.